Hello, and welcome to a look at mail order monsters for the Commodore 64, a game that was released by Electronic Arts. This is going to be another one of those videos where I have edited together some gameplay, and I will be talking over said gameplay without my commentary necessarily lining up with anything. It just makes it easier for me, and it hopefully shouldn't detract too much from anything for any viewers. But this game promises to fulfill your greatest fantasies, assuming, of course, that your greatest fantasies happens to be in control of a mail-order Psychon hero, which will henceforth be known as a morph. That is what the game calls him. If that just doesn't happen to be your greatest fantasy, then not much I can do about that. Regardless, the game concept at a foundation level is rather basic, but deceptively so. The game is a 1 or 2 player game, and you can play against another player, or if you are playing by yourself, you will be dealing with the computer, which can be, maybe not so much an interesting experience, depending on your viewpoint. The game's basic is 1 versus 1 duel thing. But the different settings of the game and the different gameplay modes will alter how that plays out. The game comes with 3 difficulty levels. It is considered to be, I would call it gameplay modes more so than difficulty settings, but what do I know? At a beginner level, you go in and you pick a morph of whatever kind you want, and it will be outfitted with some basic stuff, and then you go out in a destruction game, which is 1 versus 1 duel, and duel the other player, whether it is computer controlled or a soon not to be friend playing the other morph. You're recommended to make use of the beginner mode in order to get a feel for how the morphs play and how combat works and that kind of stuff. And it's functional, but it's not particularly exciting, because the whole point about this game is to modify the morphs, and of course the beginner level does not allow for such things. The second game setting is called Intermediate, where you get 500 Psychons to spend on buying a morph body and then altering it with hands, tentacles, all that kind of stuff, and modify its stats. Of course, everything costs money, or Psychons in this case, and you only have so many available. In Intermediate mode, you have 500 Psychons available, despite the fact that the manual claims you have 1,000. It would be somewhat more fun if you actually did have 1,000, but that is not the case, and trying to squeeze out something remotely useful with 500 Psychons can be a bit of a challenge. But it lets you get a feel for how the upgrade system works and how to spend your money wisely in order to get the most out of whatever you have available. The intermediate difficulty setting also opens up the gameplay modes. Instead of just having 1 versus 1 duels, which is the destruction mode, you also have flag, carrot, catcher, toucher thing, whatever it's called. Well, there will be 8 flags numbered 1 to 8, and you have to touch them in the correct order, either defeating its guardian or bypassing the guardian entirely. And whoever manages to touch most flags in correct order and be alive to tell the tale will be declared the winner. Horde mode is a pseudo-cooperative mode, whereas a horde of enemies will go from the top of the map to the bottom of the map, and if they reach the bottom of the map, both players will be considered to have lost that match. So it is in the greatest interest of both players to try and stop the horde from achieving their goal. And whoever has killed most enemy things, horde stuff, will be declared the winner in that gameplay mode. The meat of the game is tournament mode, which is the third gameplay setting. I do not call it difficulty setting, I will call it a gameplay setting. Whereas you will need to have a pre-formatted save game disk in order to save your owner and any morphs that you may be the owner of. This game mode starts you with a whopping 250 cycons, and if you think trying to build a useful morph with 500 was difficult, 250 is definitely not going to make it any easier. But in tournament mode, your morphs are being saved. If you lose a morph, you will be given another 250 Zygons to start all over with. And if you win a match of whatever type, you will be awarded a certain amount of Zygons and a certain amount of tournament points, which can be used to buy stuff, upgrade stuff, and improve your morphs. That is definitely where the exciting aspect of the game comes in, because you have a chance to level up some morphs that may start out rather basic and good gameplay and all that kind of stuff, and you may end up with something that is so incredibly broken that even the computer can't beat it. It's something I will get around to, even I think it's called, in a few moments. Graphics wise, I think we can agree that the game is a bit basic, but that is not necessarily a bad thing. It depends on what level of basic it is. Is it rubbish basic or good basic? And I definitely feel that this game is good basic. It could look infinitely better and more spicy and all that kind of stuff, but to be honest, the graphical style, while is perhaps a bit bearable, I'd say adds to the charm of the game. That is my opinion, and seemingly quite a few other people seem to share a similar opinion, but it is up to the individual. It is not super epic by no means, but it's functional and it works and it suits the game and the gameplay style. So I'm perfectly happy with the graphics in general. The sound effects, just like the graphics, it's good basic. They are easily identifiable from one another, and they are not intrusive, they are not overly done, they are not annoying to listen to. So, no issues in that regard. The music, again, rather basic, but the title tune is very, very enjoyable, even though a bit simplistic. And of course, the victory lap ceremony thing, whatever, is again rather basic, but also again rather enjoyable and easily recognizable, which is what you want from a tune. Remember that one of the most iconic movie tunes is the shark theme in Jaws, which is basically just two notes being alternated. So basic is not necessarily bad. Control-wise, the game controls as you would hope. The controls of the morph itself is perfectly okay. You will have various different obstacles that can be circumvented by adding additional stuff to your morph. Burrow, for instance, will allow you to navigate mountainous areas without being slowed down, and Duels will allow you to navigate water areas without being slowed down, that kind of stuff. I could go through every single individual upgrade and all that kind of stuff, but I think experimenting yourself is part of the potential enjoyment of this game. The main noteworthy thing about the controls is that when you are in the playfield itself, if you have to enter the menu in order to use a medikit or switch a weapon type or whatever else you might need to do, you need to stand absolutely still and hold down the fire button for 1 full second in order to access the menu. Then of course you can, from that point, select whatever it is you need to select. When playing against the computer will need to do the same thing as you do, but it does it significantly quicker and smoother than you are able to because of the control scheme thing, which means that it can feel a bit like the computer cheats, which it doesn't. It just does whatever it needs to do without delays. And that sends me over to the gameplay section part thing of this video. The basic premise and the main premise of this game is a 1 versus 1 duel type game. If you have no interest in that type of gameplay, then this game will have very little to offer. Ideally, you would want to play this game against another player, because then the odds are even. Whereas if you are in a position like mine, where I'm playing these games by myself, playing against the computer, especially in tournament mode, can be a rather unpleasant experience. Because you start with so few Psychons, and the only way to earn more Psychons is by reading matches, you need to be incredibly mindful about the fact that the computer-controlled morphs seem to have a budget about 5 times, if not 10 times higher than yours. You will not face morphs with one-shot weapons, but you will face morphs which seem to have a significant advantage over you, irrelevant of how you try to build your morphs. Off recording, I spent a good few hours trying to build up a morph to show how brokenly powerful a morph can become eventually, but whatever I did, the computer morphs I was playing against seemed to have my weaknesses exploited and my strengths covered, so I gave up on that aspect and just left it as it was. From a single player point of view, the excitement is to win matches, earn money, and build off a super powerful morph. But if you can't endure the initial huge disadvantage you will have playing against the computer, it may not be particularly interesting. Thankfully, the different maps will have different guardians and things like that you can lure the computer into and whittle them down a bit so they are somewhat easier to defeat even. But it is not necessarily a gameplay style that is for everyone. On the whole though, Mail Romancers is a somewhat unique game, and definitely a classic game for the Commodore 64. On that note, thanks for watching, take care, see you next time, bye bye for now.